let's begin working on the arms. We'll begin by showing our control objects. What we could also do, if we select our right arm control, go to the move tool, we can see that we have locked down the translate X, so we could always hold control and select in the center of the manipulator to bring back its movement. And then from there we could just select the center of this and move this arm forward. And also so that it's a little bit closer into the character's body. And remember, we want to keep in mind the weight of this object as well. Character's pretty strong, but the weight is still going to be there. So we can start out by bringing it that high. And then notice, okay, I've added this key on frame 2. Well, we want to make sure that it's going to be on frame 1. So to assure that, what we want to do is just middle mouse button, click on frame 1 and press Shift W. From there, that has locked down our translate positions, and we can right click and delete the key on frame 2. Okay. Great. And then looking at this also, on frame 1 we could probably bring in the arm a little bit more there, as well as stretch it out a little bit more. The arm's going to move more forward than it does back, so we want to make sure we bring this arm a little bit more forward. And then being that we like this pose on frame 1, we'll middle click on frame 23 and press Shift W to lock in the translation there. Okay, great. Now that that's done, we can go to our left arm and work on posing this out. We can be on 23 and then just copy and paste our values to frame 1. But on 23, let's go ahead and start positioning this arm. So it's back and again a little bit closer into the character's body. Then we can start rotating the hand downward in the Z. And then for the fist, let's go ahead and crank that up to a full value of 1. So we'll have him run with a fist. And we could even rotate the fist up here. Okay. Great, so now that we have this, we can go ahead and middle click on frame 1 and press Shift W and Shift D to lock in the character's pose. So here's what we have. And of course we want to be mindful of the fist. On frame 1 we'll also put in a value of 1. Great. So now let's go to frame 12 and we'll flip the arms around here. You can go ahead and bring this left arm forward. And again, more into the body. If you were working on a more comical run, it'd be a pretty interesting experiment if you were to have the arms swing further out. But this is going to be a little bit more realistic, yet stylized. So bring the arm, or the hand, will rotate it. And then for the elbow, on the same frame, we could even have that swing out a little bit more. Then I'd say for the wrist, we can correct that. And possibly even bring in the elbow a little bit here. Alright, and then going to the right arm, we'll bring this back. And remember, keep in mind the weight of this arm. Okay. Maybe bring it down a little bit more, but not too much. And maybe even take the elbow and bring that back. Alright, so if we were to scrub through, here's what we have. And for the most part, it's not looking too bad. We need to start adding follow through to our arms. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll start with the right arm. With that selected, we could even go to our graph editor and focus on our translate Y to start out. So as that arm's coming back at about frame 6, let's go ahead and bring this arm down for the follow through here. And then at about frame, let's say 18, we can bring down the Y direction as that arm's coming up. Let's see how this looks as we hit play. And we could even knock off one of our frames, our last frame, so we can see our loop. Alright, that's looking okay. You can possibly take this key on 18 and bring it down just one frame. Alright, I think that looks better. Alright, another thing we could do, as the character is bringing the arm back down, is we could actually add a little bit of snap to show a little bit more weight as he's pulling this object down. So on frame 3 we can bring up our Y direction, just the Y, a little bit more. So he's going to really pull the object down. And then we can also bring it down a little bit more on frame 6. Okay. Now, being mindful of the elbow, we'll probably want to, on frame 4, to bring this down to correct it. Let's see how this looks. Alright, great. So this is really coming together. Of course, we need to adjust our translation, our Y translation. So let's go ahead and select that and, translate X direction we need to correct. So what's going to happen is, as he's pulling his arm back, that arm is actually going to go closer into his body. So on frame 7 we can have that happen in the X direction. Then we can select it and see exactly what's happening. Then as he's starting to bring his arm forward, we're going to want to swing that arm out. Not too much. And we could hit play to see how that's looking. Alright, great. So that's coming along. Alright, let's see we start fixing our flow a bit for our translate X as well as our translate Y, because we do need to address that a little bit more. So for the X, we can take this mid key and get rid of it. Wasn't really doing much for us. And then for our end keys, let's go to frame 1 just to see what's happening here. We can take them, bring them down a little bit more, and adjust their tangency. Great. Now it almost looks like the arm could come in to the body a little bit more, so we could always take our translate X, look for the point where it's out the most, which apparently is our start and end frame, so we could just bring up our keys. Not much at all. Alrighty. Just brought it down just a little bit more. Okay, and then looking at the elbow, you can select the control and see what else we can do to this. Looks like on frame 8. Okay, and also to avoid some of the intersection that we're getting there, you may find at times you are getting geometry interpenetrating, and it's not too big of a deal for games, but you do want to adjust areas where it's really prevalent. So on frame 8 we could just adjust the arm so that it's not quite touching the leg, and also to fix the direction of the arm. Great. So this arm is really coming together quite well. We're almost finished with it. Let's go ahead and look at the translate Y direction. And we'll go to frame 1. Let's see if we could even take down some of these keys here. That might add to the snap that we're getting on frame 3. So we'll bring this down a bit more and adjust our tangency. Hit play. Let's see how this looks. Alright, good. We'll look at the back view too. Great. So, just taking another look at this to make sure we can call it done, so we can move on to our left arm. So we'll just scrub through slowly. Want to see if we can even take down our Y position for the right arm a little bit more on 17. So we'll just hold shift and middle mouse button, click and drag down a little bit more to fix the arc here. That's another important thing when it comes to the arms. And it's a little bit more tricky animating with IK, but it's definitely possible. And once you overcome the obstacle of animating arcs with IK, you can really do some fun things with it. Alright, great. So there is our right arm. So what we need to do now is definitely address the left. And that's what we're going to do in the next lesson.